In Memoriam, A.H.H. Alfred, Lord Tennyson. Strong Son of God, immortal Love, whom we, that have not seen thy face, by faith and faith alone embrace, believing where we cannot prove. Thine are these orbs of light and shade. Thou madest life in man and brute. Thou madest death. And lo, thy foot is on the skull which thou hast made. Thou wilt not leave us in the dust. Thou madest man, he knows not why. He thinks he was not made to die. And thou hast made him. Thou art just. Thou seemest human and divine, the highest, holiest manhood thou. Our wills are ours, we know not how. Our wills are ours, to make them thine. Our little systems have their day. They have their day and cease to be. They are but broken lights of thee, and thou, O Lord, art more than they. We have but faith, we cannot know. For knowledge is of things we see, and yet we trust it comes from thee, a beam in darkness. Let it grow. Let knowledge grow from more to more, but more of reverence in us dwell, that mind and soul according well may make one music as before, but vaster. We are fools and slight. We mock thee when we do not fear. But help thy foolish ones to bear, help thy vain worlds to bear thy light. Forgive what seemed my sin in me, what seemed my worth since I began. For merit lives from man to man, and not from man, O Lord, to thee. Forgive my grief for one removed, thy creature, whom I found so fair. I trust he lives in thee, and there I find him worthier to be loved. Forgive these wild and wandering cries, confusions of a wasted youth. Forgive them where they fail in truth, and in thy wisdom make me wise. 1. I held it truth with him who sings to one clear harp in diverse tones, that men may rise on stepping stones of their dead selves to higher things. But who shall so forecast the years, and find in loss a gain to match, or reach a hand through time to catch the far-off interest of tears? Let love clasp grief, lest both be drowned. Let darkness keep her raven gloss. Ah, sweeter to be drunk with loss, to dance with death, to beat the ground, than that the victor hours should scorn the long result of love, and boast, behold the man that loved and lost, but all he was is overworn. 2. Old you, which graspest at the stones that name the underlying dead, thy fibers net the dreamless head, thy roots are wrapped about the bones. The seasons bring the flower again, and bring the firstling to the flock, and in the dusk of thee the clock beats out the little lives of men. Oh, not for thee the glow, the bloom, who changest not in any gale, nor branding summer suns avail to touch thy 1,000 years of gloom. And gazing on thee, sullen tree, sick for thy stubborn hardihood, I seem to fail from out my blood, and grow incorporate into thee. 3. O sorrow, cruel fellowship! O priestess in the vaults of death! O sweet and bitter in a breath, what whispers from thy lying lip? The stars, she whispers, blindly run. A web is woven across the sky. From out waste places comes a cry, and murmurs from the dying sun. And all the phantom nature stands, with all the music in her tone, a hollow echo of my own, a hollow form with empty hands. And shall I take a thing so blind, embrace her as my natural good, or crush her like a vice of blood upon the threshold of the mind? 4. To sleep I give my powers away. My will is bondsman to the dark. I sit within a helmless bark, and with my heart I muse and say, O heart, how fares it with thee now, that thou shouldst fail from thy desire, who scarcely darest to inquire, what is it makes me beat so low? Something it is which thou hast lost, some pleasure from thine early years. Break, thou deep vase of chilling tears, that grief hath shaken into frost. Such clouds of nameless trouble cross all night below the darkened eyes. With morning wakes the will, and cries, Thou shalt not be the fool of loss. 5. I sometimes hold it half a sin to put in words the grief I feel. For words, like nature, half reveal and half conceal the soul within. But for the unquiet heart and brain, a use in measured language lies. The sad, mechanic exercise like dull narcotics, numbing pain. In words, like weeds, I'll wrap me o'er, like coarsest clothes against the cold. But that large grief which these enfold is given in outline, and no more. 6. One writes that other friends remain, that loss is common to the race. And common is the commonplace, and vacant chaff well meant for grain. That loss is common would not make my own less bitter, rather more. Too common. Never morning wore to evening, but some heart did break. O Father, wheresoe'er thou be, who pledgest now thy gallant son, a shot, ere half thy draught be done, hath stilled the life that beat from thee. O Mother, praying God will save thy sailor. While thy head is bowed, his heavy shotted hammock shroud drops in his vast and wandering grave. Ye know no more than I, who wrought at that last hour to please him well, who mused on all I had to tell, and something written, something thought, expecting still his advent home. And ever met him on his way with wishes, thinking, here today, or here tomorrow will he come. Oh, somewhere, meek unconscious dove that sitteth ranging golden hair, and glad to find thyself so fair, poor child, that waitest for thy love. For now her father's chimney glows in expectation of a guest, and thinking this will please him best, she takes a riband or a rose, for he will see them on tonight. And with the thought her colour burns, and having left the glass, she turns once more to set a ringlet right. And, even when she turned, the curse had fallen, and her future lord was drowned in passing through the ford, or killed in falling from his horse. Oh, what to her shall be the end, and what to me remains of good? To her, perpetual maidenhood, and unto me, no second friend. 7. Dark house, by which once more I stand, here in the long unlovely street. Doors, where my heart was used to beat so quickly, waiting for a hand that can be clasped no more. Behold me, for I cannot sleep, and like a guilty thing I creep at earliest morning to the door. He is not here. But far away the noise of life begins again, and ghastly through the drizzling rain on the bald street breaks the blank day. 8. A happy lover who has come to look on her that loves him well, who lights and rings the gateway bell, and learns her gone and far from home. He saddens. All the magic light dies off at once from bower and hall, and all the place is dark, and all the chambers emptied of delight. So find I every pleasant spot in which we two were wont to meet, the field, the chamber, and the street, for all is dark where thou art not. Yet as that other, wandering there in those deserted walks, may find a flower beat with rain and wind, which once she fostered up with care, so seems it, in my deep regret, O my forsaken heart, with thee, and this poor flower of posy, which little cared for, fades not yet. But since it pleased a vanished eye, I go to plant it on his tomb, that if it can, it there may bloom, or dying, there at least may die. 9. Fair ship, that from the Italian shore sailest the placid ocean plains with my lost Arthur's loved remains, spread thy full wings and waft him o'er. So draw him home to those that mourn in vain. A favourable speed ruffle thy mirrored mast, and lead through prosperous floods his holy urn. All night no ruder air perplex thy sliding keel, till phosphor, bright as our pure love, through early light shall glimmer on the dewy decks. Sphere all your lights around, above. Sleep, gentle heavens, before the prow. Sleep, gentle winds, as he sleeps now, my friend, the brother of my love, my Arthur, whom I shall not see till all my widowed race be run. Dear is the mother to the son, more than my brothers are to me. 10. I hear the noise about thy keel. I hear the bell struck in the night. I see the cabin window bright. I see the sailor at the wheel. Thou bring'st the sailor to his wife, and travelled men from foreign lands, and letters unto trembling hands, and thy dark freight, a vanished life. So bring him. We have idle dreams. This look of quiet flatters thus our home-bred fancies. O to us, the fools of habit, sweeter seems to rest beneath the clover sod that takes the sunshine and the rains, or where the kneeling hamlet drains the chalice of the grapes of God, than if with thee the roaring wells should gulf him fathom deep in brine, and hands so often clasped in mine should toss with tangle and with shells. 11. Calm is the morn without a sound, calm as to suit a calmer grief, and only through the faded leaf the chestnut pattering to the ground. Calm and deep peace on this high wold, and on these dews that drench the firs, and all the silvery gossamers that twinkle into green and gold. Calm and still light on yon great plain that sweeps with all its autumn bowers and crowded farms and lessening towers, to mingle with the bounding main. Calm and deep peace in this wide air, these leaves that redden to the fall, and in my heart, if calm at all, if any calm, a calm despair. Calm on the seas, and silver sleep, and waves that sway themselves in rest, and dead calm in that noble breast which heaves but with the heaving deep. 12. Lo, as a dove when up she springs to bear through heaven a tale of woe, some dolorous message knit below the wild pulsation of her wings. Like her I go, I cannot stay. I leave this mortal ark behind, a weight of nerves without a mind, and leave the cliffs and haste away o'er ocean mirrors rounded large, and reach the glow of southern skies, and see the sails at distance rise and linger weeping on the marge, and saying, "Comes he thus, my friend? Is this the end of all my care?" And circle moaning in the air, "Is this the end? Is this the end?" And forward dart again, and play about the prow, and back return to where the body sits, and learn that I have been an hour away. 13. Tears of the widower, when he sees a late lost form that sleep reveals, and moves his doubtful arms, and feels her place is empty, fall like these, which weep a loss forever new, a void where heart on heart reposed, and where warm hands have pressed and closed, silence, till I be silent too. Which weep the comrade of my choice, an awful thought, a life removed, the human-hearted man I loved, a spirit, not a breathing voice. Come, time, and teach me many years, I do not suffer in a dream. For now so strange do these things seem, mine eyes have leisure for their tears. My fancies time to rise on wing, and glance about the approaching sails, as though they brought but merchants' bales, and not the burthen that they bring. 14. If one should bring me this report, that thou hadst touched the land today, and I went down unto the quay, and found thee lying in the port, and standing muffled round with woe, should see thy passengers in rank come stepping lightly down the plank, and beckoning unto those they know. And if along with these should come the man I held as half divine, should strike a sudden hand in mine, and ask 1,000 things of home, and I should tell him all my pain, and how my life had drooped of late, and he should sorrow o'er my state, and marvel what possessed my brain, and I perceived no touch of change, no hint of death in all his frame, but found him all in all the same, I should not feel it to be strange. 15. Tonight the winds begin to rise and roar from yonder dropping day. The last red leaf is whirled away, the rooks are blown about the skies. The forest cracked, the waters curled, the cattle huddled on the lea, and wildly dashed on tower and tree, the sunbeam strikes along the world. And but for fancies, which aver that all thy motions gently pass athwart a plane of molten glass, I scarce could brook the strain and stir that makes the barren branches loud. And but for fear it is not so, the wild unrest that lives in woe would dote and pour on yonder cloud that rises upward always higher, and onward drags a labouring breast, and topples round the dreary west, a looming bastion fringed with fire. 16. What words are these have fallen from me? Can calm despair and wild unrest be tenants of a single breast? Or sorrow such a changeling be? Or doth she only seem to take the touch of change in calm or storm, but knows no more of transient form in her deep self, than some dead lake that holds the shadow of a lark hung in the shadow of a heaven? Or has the shock, so harshly given, confused me like the unhappy bark that strikes by night a craggy shelf, and staggers blindly ere she sink? And stunned me from my power to think and all my knowledge of myself, and made me that delirious man whose fancy fuses old and new, and flashes into false and true, and mingles all without a plan? 17. Thou comest, much wept for. Such a breeze compelled thy canvas, and my prayer was as the whisper of an air to breathe thee over lonely seas. For I in spirit saw thee move through circles of the bounding sky, week after week. The days go by. Come quick, thou bringest all I love. Henceforth, wherever thou mayst roam, my blessing like a line of light is on the waters day and night, and like a beacon guards thee home. So may whatever tempest mars mid-ocean spare thee, sacred bark, and balmy drops in summer dark slide from the bosom of the stars. So kind an office hath been done, such precious relics brought by thee. The dust of him I shall not see till all my widowed race be run. 18. 'Tis well. 'Tis something. We may stand where he in English earth is laid, and from his ashes may be made the violet of his native land. 'Tis little, but it looks in truth as if the quiet bones were blessed among familiar names to rest, and in the places of his youth. Come then, pure hands, and bear the head that sleeps or wears the mask of sleep, and come, whatever loves to weep, and hear the ritual of the dead. Ah, yet, even yet, if this might be, I, falling on his faithful heart, would, breathing through his lips, impart the life that almost dies in me, that dies not, but endures with pain, and slowly forms the firmer mind, treasuring the look it cannot find, the words that are not heard again. 19. The Danube to the Severn gave the darkened heart that beat no more. They laid him by the pleasant shore, and in the hearing of the wave. There twice a day the Severn fills. The salt sea water passes by, and hushes half the babbling Wye, and makes a silence in the hills. The Wye is hushed nor moved along, and hushed my deepest grief of all, when filled with tears that cannot fall, I brim with sorrow, drowning song. The tide flows down. The wave again is vocal in its wooded walls. My deeper anguish also falls, and I can speak a little then. 20. The lesser griefs that may be said, that breathe 1,000 tender vows, are but as servants in a house where lies the master newly dead, who speak their feeling as it is, and weep the fullness from the mind. It will be hard, they say, to find another service such as this. My lighter moods are like to these, that out of words a comfort win. But there are other griefs within, and tears that at their fountain freeze. For by the hearth the children sit cold in that atmosphere of death, and scarce endure to draw the breath, or like to noiseless phantoms flit. But open converse is there none. So much the vital spirits sink to see the vacant chair, and think, how good, how kind. And he is gone. 21. I sing to him that rests below, and since the grasses round me wave, I take the grasses of the grave and make them pipes whereon to blow. The traveller hears me now and then, and sometimes harshly will he speak. This fellow would make weakness weak, and melt the waxen hearts of men. Another answers, let him be. He loves to make parade of pain, that with his piping he may gain the praise that comes to constancy. A third is wroth. Is this an hour for private sorrow's barren song, when more and more the people throng the chairs and thrones of civil power, a time to sicken and to swoon, when science reaches forth her arms to feel from world to world, and charms her secret from the latest moon. Behold, ye speak an idle thing. Ye never knew the sacred dust. I do but sing because I must, and pipe but as the linnets sing. And one is glad, her note is gay, for now her little ones have ranged, and one is sad, her note is changed, because her brood is stolen away. 22. The path by which we twain did go, which led by tracts that pleased us well, through 4 sweet years arose and fell from flower to flower, from snow to snow. And we with singing cheered the way, and, crowned with all the season lent, from April on to April went, and glad at heart from May to May. But where the path we walked began to slant the 5th autumnal slope, as we descended following hope, there sat the shadow feared of man, who broke our fair companionship, and spread his mantle dark and cold, and wrapped thee formless in the fold, and dulled the murmur on thy lip, and bore thee where I could not see nor follow, though I walk in haste. And think that somewhere in the waste the shadow sits and waits for me. 23. Now, sometimes in my sorrow shut, or breaking into song by fits, alone, alone, to where he sits, the shadow cloaked from head to foot, who keeps the keys of all the creeds, I wander, often falling lame, and looking back to whence I came, or on to where the pathway leads, and crying, how changed from where it ran through lands where not a leaf was dumb, but all the lavish hills would hum the murmur of a happy Pan, when each by turns was guide to each, and fancy light from fancy caught, and thought leapt out to wed with thought, ere thought could wed itself with speech. And all we met was fair and good, and all was good that time could bring, and all the secret of the spring moved in the chambers of the blood. And many an old philosophy on Argive heights divinely sang, and round us all the thicket rang to many a flute of Arcady. 24. And was the day of my delight as pure and perfect as I say? The very source and fount of day is dashed with wandering isles of night. If all was good and fair we met, this earth had been the paradise it never looked to human eyes since our first sun arose and set. And is it that the haze of grief makes former gladness loom so great? The lowness of the present state that sets the past in this relief? Or that the past will always win a glory from its being far, and orb into the perfect star we saw not when we moved therein? 25. I know that this was life, the track whereon with equal feet we fared. And then, as now, the day prepared the daily burden for the back. But this it was that made me move as light as carrier birds in air. I loved the weight I had to bear, because it needed help of love. Nor could I weary, heart or limb, when mighty love would cleave in twain the lading of a single pain, and part it, giving half to him. 26. Still onward winds the dreary way, I with it. For I long to prove no lapse of moons can canker love, whatever fickle tongues may say. And if that eye which watches guilt and goodness, and hath power to see within the green the mouldered tree, and towers fallen as soon as built, oh, if indeed that eye foresee, or see, in him is no before, in more of life, true life no more, and love the indifference to be, then might I find, ere yet the morn breaks hither over Indian seas, that shadow waiting with the keys to shroud me from my proper scorn. 27. I envy not in any moods the captive void of noble rage, the linnet born within the cage that never knew the summer woods. I envy not the beast that takes his license in the field of time, unfettered by the sense of crime to whom a conscience never wakes. Nor, what may count itself as blessed, the heart that never plighted troth, but stagnates in the weeds of sloth, nor any want-begotten rest. I hold it true, whate'er befall, I feel it when I sorrow most. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.